I know it's played out, but it's the obsession with attribution. It kills me. But it's bigger than just attribution. For me, it goes back to just what I call common sense marketing. So when you stop being a marketer, when you stop being an exec, when you stop being whatever you are for 2 minutes, and you think about the last time that you made a business purchase, how did you go about it? How did you learn about the brand or product? So to me, it's less about this channel or that channel or what percent gets attributed in reporting, but more about focusing on how do humans buy? How do you show up in each of the places that are a part of that journey? And whether or not you can attribute credit to it or not, like don't get so caught up in that you stop showing up in those places because, well, it's not showing up in a multi-touch attribution or it's not showing up in lead gen. But when you hear from people or when you think about it, that's where I say just, use that little bit of common sense marketing to bring it all together. So there's not going to be one silver bullet program that magically generates all of the pipeline, all of the revenue that you need to achieve your goals. It's the stacking of multiple programs that are working together over time. So what we'll often see is people think they're switching to demand gen. They're like, oh, we're going to start running ungated ads. We're going to focus on high intent keywords only and think that that's the secret to running the demand generation program. But the reality is it's one part of many that go on. So I mean, if you want to know when you're like how your LinkedIn ads are going to work better from your brand standpoint, like when they've been seeing the individuals from your company constantly popping up in their feed and sharing value and insight to them. Like if you want to know how your search is going to work better, well, have maybe they heard your CEO on a few podcasts recently that they've been following, and then they search your company when they hear them talk about something that their product or company solves for. It's a pain that they've been feeling for the past 6 months, but they didn't even know a solution existed for it. So the companies that are getting ahead are really those that are adding value to others for free. They're not getting caught up in one specific area that's going to drive business results as soon as the podcast episode goes live or the post goes up on LinkedIn. But we're looking at it as the aggregation, the sum of all of these things working in tandem towards that stronger result. So I know I talk a lot about like fitness and health on Friday. So I always say, because so many people can relate to this, like treat your company like it's an exercise program. It's not one specific exercise like a bicep curl or one specific session, your Tuesday workout that gets you the results, but it's the aggregation of all of the exercises, sticking to that program day in and day out that gets you to where you want to be. So this is one that it was interesting the way I came to it, but ultimately it's the having an insatiable desire to succeed. So I'll tell a little story about like how I got to this. So I first heard the phrase from my wife's grandfather. So he was a VP of marketing at IBM way back in their heyday, and we were talking about high performers. So he told me about how much money they spent on various IQ, EQ, I mean, you name it, any type of assessment. And they had applicants, current employees take them, and then they wanted to try to see, are there any connections between, things that they're surfacing in this assessment and what we view as their output for the company. So they spent over 2 years working on this and they had nothing. So he looked at his organization, he looked at the top performers, who were the solid performers, who were those that struggled. And then he said, it hit me like a pile of bricks. Had nothing to do with how book smart the person was, how emotionally intelligent the person was, any of those. But he said that it really sat within the individuals themselves and their personal desire to want to be successful. And so the way that he explained that to me was when you have that drive, what it does is it forces you to constantly be open to learning. It really makes you lose your ego. I mean, you're going to be wrong a lot. It pushes yourself to do what you need to do, even when you don't want to do it. And it makes you uncomfortable as you continue to stretch yourself to learn new skills, to take on new opportunities. So all of those will lead you to success, but it's a long game. Like everything else I always talk about, it's worth it at the end, but it stems from the internal self. So, is it nurture? Is it nature? Is it whatever? I think a lot of it just has to do with your approach to what you want to get out of your day-to-day job and where you see yourself going.